Hello there, welcome to Plus Talk on Plus Life, where we're all about turning positive into a plus. Today I'm joined by my father, who has travelled across the Pacific Ocean, and we're going to talk about your experience. Welcome, Dad.
Welcome for me.
It's a bit of it's therapy, and you've got Gus with you, so you're in good
Gus,
company.
Yes, he's calming me down.
But what's it like when a son tells his dad he's HIV positive?
It was a real punch in the gut. It was unbelievable. It took the wind out of me. It made me feel
lost for words. What did you know about HIV pre-becoming so engulfed in it?
well. I certainly knew a relatively amount, as it was in the days prior to being educated. You being gay made us more aware of the fact there's HIV out there, and medicine, I think, had already caught up. I think medicine, it wasn't a problem in terms of that I was worried about your life. I was more worried about how you were going to cope with it. After I got over that horrible shock of having my son have HIV and having time to think about it, it was then a case of how can I support Karl? That was really the point.
To go back before I disclosed my status to you, what kind of conversations did you and Mum have, obviously out of my earshot? Yeah. As you said, you've got a gay son who's in his 20s, living in London at the time, and you're aware of HIV. Yes. What kind of conversations were you two having? Were you ever like, gosh, I hope he's being careful, or what would we ever do if our son came to us? Did you ever have any of those kind of chats?
Well, I'm sure we did, and we did speak about what would happen and what would we do, or how would we handle it. And it was a difficult question, because I don't think we ever actually answered it ourselves. So when it came, we hadn't any solution to it, or any way of handling it.
So when I hung up off the Skype call, and it was just you two sitting there together, and I think my grandmother was there, do you remember what the conversation was, or what happened immediately after that Skype call?
I think it was hugs. There was hugs and there was tears. And what are we going to do? The concentration was on how can we help you. It was probably, we were worried about your mental state more than your health state.
What about, and you could be really honest, what about sort of a disappointment? Because I think, you've heard me talk about how when I got the news, I thought, how could I do this to my mum and dad? How could I do this to my parents? Was there any part of you that went, God, he really went and up, didn't he?
Not at all. Not at all. It never entered my mind, and I'm positive it never entered Mum's mind, neither. Not once did we think there was a disappointment, or on that aspect. It was never. It was more the love that we felt for you, really. And how do we help? How do we help our boy?
Forget helping me. How did you help you in those moments?
On the emotional side, initially, I handled it very well in terms of...
You don't think you did?
No, I don't think I did.
Why?
Because I had no control on how to help you. I was helpless. That was my biggest worry. But there was never any feeling of disappointment. Absolutely not. And how did I cope with it as we went along? I have to say, I have to give your mother more credit than I probably gave her at the time. She helped me a lot with it, and she helped me to talk about it to other people, where I probably wanted to keep it within myself and just try to work it out.
Why did you want to keep it within yourself? Was there, and again, you can be really honest, is there an element of shame? I mean, I felt shame, And I remember saying to you, look, this is not for public broadcast. We don't need to tell all the cousins and the aunts and everybody right away. Please, can we just, until we get a grip of what we do. And a part of that was shame. I mean, that is a huge part of living with HIV and the stigma that causes us to feel shame. Wasn't there any of that as a parent that...
No, absolutely
not even like, how do I tell my mates when we go, and my bike riding mates when we go and have coffee or whatever, oh, my gay son's now got HIV?
I have to say that I had the discussion with your mum on how I was going to handle it, and that's how she helped me. She said, just be open about it. I can't say it was shame. There was an element of how would I tell my mother, or how would I tell my sisters? What are they going to think about you? More that than any shame. But Mum made me realise very, very quickly. And in fact, I went to the office. I think it was the next day, and I sat down with my boss at the time and discussed it with him. And he was fantastic.
What's that conversation like?
Well, it was a difficult conversation. His wife was a board member as well, and I sat in the office and I cried, and I explained what had happened, and I didn't know how to handle it, and I was going to struggle with my job, and they were fantastic, and that helped for the next stage to tell the next lot of people. And
then you and I, to set the scene a little bit, I was living in London, and you were, I think, living in Fiji still. But the next time we saw each other was you and I we met up in Indonesia and had some time together. On that plane ride to Indonesia for you, what's going through your mind when we've had lots of conversations and we've had lots of Skype meetings and talking, we live in the age of Zoom right now, but because my family is so international, we've been living in the Zoom Skype world for the last 20 years. Yeah. So we're used to that. But what's going through your mind when you are going to see me in person for the first time? And how, were you worried about saying the right thing or doing the right thing, or was there confusion? What was that like?
Yeah, so we'd talked on the phone beforehand. Initially, I think you were a little bit reluctant on doing this trip, but it was important that we do that. But on the trip over, I had apprehensions in terms of how to handle and how to cope more so with your emotions and my emotions, and make sure that I didn't put my foot in it the wrong way, and that the trip would turn out the way we would hope it turned out. But it was an emotional roller coaster ride. It was like a turbulent flight all the way over there.
So I was 27 when I was diagnosed, a young man really at the start of his life. What does it feel like as a parent when, obviously it's different now, but to think, what's life going to be like for our son? I guess that was a big part of it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
what was your biggest fear in that element?
In that, biggest fear was, or one of the big fears was that what would happen. I mean, you were very outgoing. You had a relatively good job in London. My fear was there going to be discrimination? Will you lose your job over it? Will somebody, quietly say, please go? And that was really, and how would you cope with that? You saw yourself in this industry from a little boy. And the concern was, how were you going to cope with the fact that you may not get work?
And then, here we are 15 odd years later, and it has not been an easy journey. You've, selfishly on my part, when you've had to experience the incredible lows that I have gone through, some of the self-destructive things I've done to myself. What's that like as a father, and how have you coped with that?
Again, with the help of your mother, How have I coped with that? I think it's a parent's instinct. If you have a love for a child and your love for your son, you have to go with it. There's no alternative. So you have to look at the positives. And although it was difficult at times, very difficult at times, tears, sleepless nights, but as a parent, you have to be there for your children, and that's not a forced thing. It's just natural.
What about what have you learned? I mean, I know you've learned a lot. I've learned a lot. Mum's learned a lot as a family. I think I'm very lucky that I have the family that I do, because it's probably, and sad to say, the exception to the rule, because a lot of people don't, or a lot of people feel that they don't have that support. How has your opinion on HIV changed in the last 15 years through all of this?
Enormously. It's not only HIV. You educated us in many areas. I was like a lot of people, fairly conservative in my outlook in terms of homosexuality, in terms of HIV, and the way we were educated in the movies with the Grim Reaper, I think it was called. And I often question myself now that I was employing people, and at the time, I don't know whether I would have employed somebody that had HIV. I really, and I'm embarrassed to say that, but that's how it was. And so I've learned that it's not the horrible disease that was put to us in the propaganda form, I feel now. And that people live a healthy life, and I'll watch you, and we're proud of you and we love you.
Well, thank you for chatting and being so open and honest. That's going to do it for this episode of Plus Talk. If you want more information, check out our website, pluslifemedia.com. And remember, you can follow Plus Life across social media platforms. We are at Plus Life Media on all of them. Until next time, be nice. Tell your dad you love him. I love your dad.
Thank you, and I love you.
And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.